My brother.
There is something else. Okay. Anyhow, time going. Let me just go. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والصلاة والسلام على رسول الكريم. أما بعد. So, yesterday, we spoke about how Allah created the seven heavens, okay, in Tibakan, in layers. And we mentioned some of the history and the science behind these things. And then we mentioned that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the sun as a lamp and the moon reflecting that light. All of these things has been confirmed by science today. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says after saying all that, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Okay. Wallahu ambatakum minal ardi nabatan. That is ayat number 17. Verse number 17. Wallahu ambatakum minal ardi nabatan. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that He created you all like like when you plant something, okay, like he installed you in like a plant in the earth, okay, and as a plant, like He created you as a plant. You know how you put the plant in the earth and then it grows out. Okay, now that is very interesting, and some people have used that metaphor. It's a metaphor. Some people have used that metaphor for what we call evolution. Okay, some people have used that for evolution because the plant, as we know, comes up in stages. Okay, so perhaps Allah is showing us here that just as He created us in stages in the womb of our mothers, okay, in the womb of the earth was something similar, and that He began the process of that creation of man like a plant, and perhaps this, might need some more what we call investigation. Okay, perhaps we need to investigate this some more as to see as to what it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala meant by that. Now, the world that we live in today, I'm not saying that everything in science is confirmed in the Quran. Okay, because you have to understand science, it deals with supposition. Okay, I suppose something and then I try by experiment to validate it to see if it's true or not. Okay, that's one part of science. The other part of science is understanding how things are. And this is what the Quran points out. How things are that has now become known to us. Okay, so when I say science, that is what I mean. Okay, because there are some people who try to, they try so hard to give the dawah, and they say, well, everything in science is confirmed in the Quran. No. Because there are things in science that they was wrong. Okay, they make certain suppositions, certain ideas, and after that time they found out they was wrong and they changed the ideas. Right? And we know that the Quran is immutable, which means that the verses don't change to to suit us. Okay, Allah send down definite verses describing certain things, right? And there's no need for it to experiment. Okay, there's no need to experiment. So, what did Jalalain say concerning this? And Jalalain, it is translated as, and Allah has created you to grow. Okay, He has created you from the earth. Okay, so Allah says He has caused you to grow, and He has created you from the earth. This is very, very important. So, in a sense, we can investigate and look at the similarities, how a plant grows, to understand how Allah created us from the earth. Okay, so that is that challenge that Allah put down. Now, mind you, Allah was talking to people who were not scientific. Okay, they had no scientific knowledge. So He used things around them, okay, to explain what He was saying. Now, the Arabs at the time were familiar with plants. You know, we see what plants they plant and we see how the plant grows. Because not all Arabs were Bedouins. You know, all the Arabs were not. The Badu are people who live in the desert, in the open space Badu, and they move from place to place. But they are town Arabs who live in the town, you know, who live in settlements, okay, and who did not move from place to place. So Allah raised us like a plant. So this goes back to what I was saying before. You know, when you plant something, okay, little I know about planting, the person who's doing it, there's a lot of care. You know, you water the plant, you put you ensure the soil is enriched. You know, you try not to plant it in a way where the sun might kill it. You know, the new plant, you know, before it gets strong. You know, there's a lot of things goes into it, and those kind of things is what we call Rabb. That is Allah being a Rabb, somebody who takes care of something until it comes to its full potential. So Allah, like star plant in His creation. So we are not haphazard. You know, we didn't just come here by chance. Okay, there was a process. Just as a process in the bellies of our mother, there's also a process in how we grow from childhood to teenage to elders to the grave. You know, all of it is a process that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, okay, has created us. So Allah says that, you know, this thing only when you have all these different gadgets. Yeah, so Allah created us, you know, like that. And Jalalain says, he says that, because Tafsir Jalalain you're doing, he said that it means He created us from the earth when He created our father Adam. So Jalalain saying that this verse refers to how Allah created Adam, alayhi salam, our father Adam, from the earth. Okay? And there's another commentator on Jalalain, which is Sawi. He said that what I just said, you can consider it just as the sperm grows. Just as the sperm grows, is the same process Allah created us in the earth, like a seed, and we germinate and we grow from the earth. Okay, until Allah shape us into a man. And then Allah blow His breath into the man. Okay, so as I said, all of it is a process. Now, what happened before this? Before this, we were in spiritual form, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you know, in the Hadith, it says that, the Quran, Allah says He created all of us. And He said, am I not your Lord? Allah to be Rabbikum. Am I not your Lord? And all of us said yes. All of us, the whole creation, Bush, everybody, Trump, everybody, am I not your Lord? And all when we in our soul form, in our spirit form, we said yes. That is what is meant by everybody's born a Muslim. Right? Because in the spirit world, we recognize Allah alone as our Rabb. Okay? Now, none of us can really remember that. When we come into this world, we don't remember it in that way. Okay? But in our growing up, we recognize that there's something more powerful than us. Okay? And then our parents say, well, it's Jesus. Other parents say Hanuman. Our parents say this, and the Prophet Islam say that the parents is who turn you into Christian, Jew, and whatever. But in the natural state, which Allah say, which we call fitra, the natural state is to believe in a creator, and everybody has that in this world. So that is why sometimes you meet people and immediately you attach to that person and you can't explain it. Right? Because you met in that spirit world. You are acquainted, when Allah call all the souls, you are acquainted with certain people. And when you meet these people in the world, you just hit it off, as they say. Okay? That's my understanding of when you meet people, that, sometimes for no reason, there's no scientific or knowledge reason other than that you were familiar with these people in that world. Okay? So the same way created our father Adam from the earth is a similar process in consideration of the sperm. Right? And if you look at the sperm, how does sperm develop? Isn't it from the food from the earth? And as Trinidadians, we always talking, this is good for the back boy, and this is good for this boy, and that good for that boy. Chana and peanuts and, all these different things we concoct, right? But all these things that we do to strengthen our libido and to strengthen our sperm count, all of these things, okay, is called Gada, is food from the earth. So even you can look at the ayat, also that when He created us, from the earth physically, or we could say that even like the sperm, it is also came into being and strengthened by what? Food. Because when the child gets food, the child develops sperms. Okay, the sperm didn't come on its own. It comes from a child that is fed properly. Okay, so, and in the process of eating and feeding nutrients, the sperm develop. So this is what the another person called Sawi, I use Sawi to help spread out the explanation of Jalalain, because Jalalain is very short. Okay, it's very short. And sometimes you need to expand the understanding. Okay, so created from a plant is possible. We can look at that as evolutionary. Evolution just means to move from stage to stage. Evolution have nothing to be an ape or a monkey or nothing like that. Evolution just means to move from stage to stage and to adapt. Okay, if I put you in, for example, in Indonesia and Malaysia, there are elephants. But these elephants are jungle elephants. And jungle elephants are smaller than the elephants in Africa. Elephants in Africa are bigger. Okay, because they live on the plains, flat land. Right? And the men who live on that flat land also are also tall and big. The men who live in the jungle are short. Okay, why? You can't be a tall to be a tall man walk in the jungle. You could get strangled by plants. You could butt your head. You know, normally as a tall person, when they go in the jungle, you have to bow to move, right? But those short men, who we call, the really word is not pygmy, really, it's twa. The twa people, pygmies are insult, right? The twa people, like in Africa, they are very short people. They run through the jungle because they're short. Okay, they will not get hambugged by any low-lying plants or anything, tree, or you could just hit a branch and break your neck. Right? So the elephants who live in the jungle are very small because they adapt. That is part of evolution, to adaptation. Okay, they adapted to the environment in which they live. Look at the Eskimos. They live in a house made of ice, and they can tolerate that. If you put me in a house of ice, before 2 minutes I dead, because I haven't adapted to that cold. I don't like cold. It's adapted. Your body adapted to the coldness, right? So their bodies adapted. Even when they eat raw meat. Okay, because in the digestion it generates heat, for the body to digest raw meat. So, and half cooked food. That's how they live. And that is adaptation. There's no part of this world where people have not adapted to the geology of the place, to the geography of the place, to the climate of the place, to the weather of the place. That is why Allah created us from black mud. Okay? And in science, it said that the first set of people developed on the equator, which is very hot. Right? People only became pale as they adapted to different environments when they moved out to Africa, and they adapted to coolness and different things. And that became fixed. Okay, and also the diet. Okay, because lack of fish and certain type of proteins cause the hair to become stringy and different things like that. So we know that Allah created all those processes to create different people. Okay, there are people in the Kalahari Desert. They hear like they have real what we call like you can see every bit of the hair. When you look at the hair, it's like picker, right? And they have Chinese features, and they're not black; they're yellow like Chinese, but they live in Africa. But they hear like real grang, real piece by piece. Okay. So, and those are the first people in Africa. But the part of Africa they live, South Africa is very cold, If you look at the Zulus, the kind of clothes they wear is very cold. And the Zulus, not from there, all those people. Listen, let me plug in this. All those people came down. The people who inhabit South Africa now, like the Zulus, in Tabale, all these people, they came down from the middle of Africa, Central Africa, and they came down into South Africa. But the original people of South Africa is a short desert. He lives in desert, and the desert is very cold. Like when I went to Arabia, I saw them selling jackets with, like in the snow. I say, why are they selling that? They say, well, boy, in the desert it'll be really cold. It is hot in the desert in the night, but during the morning it's very, very hot, and during the night it's very cool. Okay, just trying to get this thing to charge. I don't want it to drop up on us. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah, Ayat 19, Thumma yu'idukum fiha. And then Allah said, He return us to this earth. Okay, what does that mean? Right? Then he says, he returns us to the earth in death. Okay, we are, our preferred sunnah in burial is burials. We don't cremate people. Okay, as Muslims, we don't cremate. Our preferred burial is to put the body into the earth, where it come from. Okay, so we return to, so yu'idukum means to go back to where you came from. Okay, so that is why our festival is called Eid, because it always return, like a circular. Every year at this time we have a festival. Every year at this time we have a festival. It keeps returning. That's why it is called Eid. Okay, in the absolute sense, it means to return back to something. So ma yu'idukum fiha, to the earth. Wa yukhrijukum. Okay, and Allah then said that He will yukhriju, He will take us out. Okay, He will take us out. Bring, kharaja means to bring something out of something. That's why the first sect in Islam was a sect called the Khawarij. Those who went out from the community of Muslims. Right? Those people rejected the first Jama'ah of the Prophet ﷺ, and they went out to do their own thing. It's called Khawarij. Okay, and they were very terrible people. Okay, they used to they were very fanatic. They were not balanced. They were the first set of extremists. They will kill. They used to kill a lot of the companions, and at one time they killed this woman and cut her belly and take out the baby. Muslims did some terrible things, and even up to now, Muslims still do terrible things. And they blame the whole of Islam for it, but our Prophet told us about these people, to be careful of them. He said they will keep returning. Every generation among the Muslims will have these extremist elements. Okay, and he said that we shall oppose them and fight them. But a lot of people look at the extremity as righteousness, because those Khawarij, Ibn Abbas, one of the Prophet Islam companion, born in Islam, the Prophet said that this man is the rabbi is the Rabbani of Islam. He's knowledgeable in Quran. Take Quran from him. When the Khawarij came out and opposed Ali, he sent Abbas to speak to these people. And it is reported from Abbas, he said when he went among these people, before he reached, he heard something like humming like bees, because them guys reading Quran. Yeah, I'm doing that. They're done with the Quran, man. And when you see them, they have big black mark on their head from sajda, and on their foot from making prayer. They do endless prayer, endless reading of the Quran. But that same man will go and kill an innocent soul. And he said that when they're passing through, a garden belonging to a Christian, they will not eat the fruits and say it's haram. How you go pass through this man's garden and eat the fruits? It's haram. Right? But that same person will go and destroy an innocent life. And this is the method even today. The very pious, all the salat, all the head with black mark, and they'll go and put a bomb amongst innocent people. It could be your mother or your child going to school or going to work, and blow up a bus and say jihad, and stupid men in Trinidad saying, yeah, we should follow them. Nonsense. You see? Because we have associated extreme piety, this kind of thing, with that being real pious. And what the Prophet said about them, he said they recite Quran beautifully, but it wouldn't pass their throat. The Quran will have no effect on their hearts. So all their worship is external. Okay? And they are called the dogs of hell. For all that worship and all that, they'll go to hell. Why? Because Islam is not compartmentalized. And today they call them jihadi. What is jihadi? Jihad is part of Islam. Can you take jihadi out? Jihad out of Islam, make it separate? You create a bid'ah and you create fitna. It's the same way. You took spiritualism and give it a name, right? And people create all kind of bid'ah around it. Anytime you try to isolate, Islam is a whole, right? It's a deen, right? You can be a jihadi committed. The Prophet was not warmongers, just committed to fight. They fight when it is necessary, when there's a need to fight. So as Muslims, we are not cowards. And at the same time, we are not warmongers. Our preferred way of doing things is with salam, peace. Because with peace, people can develop. People don't develop from war. Okay, and why do we fight? The early caliphate, they fought those people who were stopping the dawah. When Muslims went to preach, they killed them, stopped them from dawah. So we send our armies. How could you kill our people like that? Same thing America does today. If you kill an American unjustly, we do something. The whole America coming for you. But in our history, when we talk about that, they say be barbaric. You see, where they used to send out du'ats, people to preach Islam, and those people were blocked. And in that time, when the Muslim conquest was against the Byzantines, they were Byzantine Christians who were stopping the Muslims from spreading Islam because they were in power, and they were Byzantine Catholics, not Catholic Christians. And that is the Eastern Christianity. There are two Christianities. There's the Eastern Christianity and the Western Christianity. The Western Christianity is represented by the Catholics. All these other groups like Presbyterian and Jehu, all of them come out of Catholicism. And then we have the Eastern Church, which is Eastern Orthodox Church. You have the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, the Syrian Orthodox Church, the Nestorians. So there's not one Christianity. Okay? So they were stopping the dawah. And of course, there are people who use jihad now to conquer territory. Okay, and to conquer other people and enslave them. You see? So under the banner of Islam, okay, people do a lot of things, and you have to be careful. And the only reason you can be careful is by learning your deen properly. And be careful from who you take your deen. Some people just go on the internet, listen to some man, they don't know the man. They know the man is a Christian posing as a Muslim. They don't know. Because we have that too. We have people, they have been infiltrated, right? And there are even scholars who propose, who give, they're working for the CIA or they're working for somebody else. So you have to learn your deen. So Allah says, He took us out. He will return us to the earth, and then He will take us out of the earth. And that is what we call the day of rising. Qiyamah is to rise up. It is the day of Qiyamah, the day of rising, what we call resurrection. So it is part of Iman. Amantu billahi. Okay, we believe in Allah. Wa malaikatihi, and His angels. Wa kutubihi, and His books. Okay, and wa yawmul akhir, and the last day. And associated with the last days, there are signs of the last days. Okay, and we believe in the resurrection, and we believe in the decree. All this is part of our testimony of Iman. So we believe in returning to Allah. That is why when somebody dies, we say what? Inna lillahi, that indeed we belongs to Allah. Wa inna ilayhi, and indeed we shall return to him. Okay, so that's why we are called Abdullah and Amatullah. You know, we are slaves, servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are owned by somebody in that sense. And the owner is Allah because He's the person that gives life. Okay, Allah is Al-Hayyu, the life giver, and Allah is the one who gives death also. These are two attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we must keep that. This is what the Quran affirms. The Quran, says that Allah will return us back to the earth, and then He will take us out of the earth in the resurrection. Okay, so these are the conditions that we will find ourselves, inshallah, when Allah wills. Continue. Ayat 19. I don't know why this thing to cut off. Ayat 19. Wallahu ja'ala lakum al-arda bisatan. And Allah says, subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah says that He created for you the earth. Wallahu ja'ala, He made the earth for you. How? Bisatan. He made the earth a bisatan. Jalalain said, a happy place, a place of ease. Okay? Because it's man who make life hard, and difficult. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said he made the earth, He made it. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure this thing in charge. Yeah, He made the earth as He made the earth basit, easy for us. It's easy to have. We have food, plant food. We have weather, to grow the plants. We have different things. Today we have oil. Today we have bauxite. Today we have jewels, gold, all these different things. Allah has provided all these things for you. Okay, so He has made those things. It's people who make the life hard. Because somebody want to come and control the water and make you pay for the water. Of course, to transport the water from your house. Okay, you pay for that. But they want to make you pay for the water. They want to make you pay for the sunshine, the tax and everything. So they make the world very difficult, for human beings. So this is how Muslims, if we are to be in control of all the communities, we should make it easy. We should not frustrate people, okay, and make things difficult for them. And that we should harness the creation things around us. We should be planting our own food. We should have food security. This is something that, don't get too comfortable going to the groceries. You should have a kitchen garden. You plant a little food. As our ancestors did. They were slaves. And even they were slaves, they had their little kitchen gardens. Okay, so if master decided to starve them, they could eat something. There are some chickens, and the long time people were like that. We lost all of that. We just come to dependent that if they say, for example, when it have they say something will happen and it will be an outbreak or something, people start to run to the groceries to buy a simple thing like toilet paper. People was hoarding toilet paper and all these different things. Right? So Muslims did themselves take a clue from that. Perhaps we can invest in toilet paper. Because that's something people have to use every day. I hope so. And we use water also. Okay? So it shows how fragile our life and our existence is. In America now, they have what they call guerrilla farming. People planting food on the roofs, on their balcony, any empty space, all colors, they clean it out and they plant food. okay? Because we need food security, because the way the world going, things could turn upside down in one day. So Allah says He created the earth bisatan. Okay, easy. Wide roads, you can get from to one place to another place. If you look at the bush in Trinidad, right? They were pathways that the Caribs used to use. They used to get from one part of the island to the next. They had their own path, they had their own roads, It wasn't pitch, but they had their own routes, which they traverse the island. Li tasluku minha. Okay? Li tasluku minha subulan fijajan. So that you make it easy so that you can salak, you can walk, you can have access, walk through the earth. Okay? And that there are pathways that you can use. Okay, there are pathways that you can use to get from one place, okay, to the other. Okay, so this is just to describe bisata. When Allah said bisatan, He says li, so that you can walk this path, walk these ways, go here, move from one place to the next. Okay, so the next thing that we have to understand, the human being was always a mobile person. People walk all over this earth. They never stay in one place. Right? Those, as they move, they drop a settlement here and they make a resettlement, but they continue moving until they traverse all different places and spread out. Okay, and then they develop civilizations. And they settle down along rivers. The smart thing to do. So you find civilization in Mesopotamia, which is Iraq today. You find civilization in Africa, in the Nile Valley, which is the where the Nile runs. People settle along there, straight up into Uganda, and into the Victoria Falls. People settle along rivers. And it's a smart thing to do because you need water to live. And the world is coming back into a situation where just now people be fighting for water. Like Ethiopia, for example. Ethiopia is the highland, and Ethiopia is building a dam to control the Nile. Remember, Egypt is down, right? The Nile is the only river that does flow northwards. Every other river does flow southwards, right? Because Ethiopia is in the highland, in the mountain of the moons, and the water goes down the Nile into past Egypt into the Mediterranean Sea. Okay, and Ethiopia is trying to dam the water on top. Just imagine somebody dam the water on top to control the amount of water you get down with. And Egypt say they didn't sign up for that. Okay, Egypt say they're not taking that. It's the same thing Israel is doing today. They went and took over the Golan Heights completely now. And it's from the Golan Heights that you get water that goes into the Jordan River and all these things. So they are controlling the water. And this is interesting. Why they controlling the water? And why they always fighting to they encouraging Ethiopia to do that, because Ethiopia does supply Israel with water. They have the flight over where they put it in large containers. Okay? Now, remember, there's a prophecy that the Prophet ﷺ said that the first wave of Gog and Magog, when they come into Israel, they're going to use up the water of the river Tiberias, and that is true. Up to today, the river Tiberias, okay, is the main river in Israel that they use to run the industries, to carry on their society and things like that. So they know, the prophet said that the first wave of them will use up the water. And today, in the hadith, it said that when they meet the Dajjal, he said that, how high is the river of Tiberias? He asked the companion who met him, how high is the river? I mean, yeah, the water in Tiberias. He said it is high. He said when it goes down, it will be a sign of my coming out. All right, and right now it is at its lowest depth. You can see mud at the bottom now. Okay, it's an indicator. And you say, what about the garden of Batsan, which is in between Jordan and Israel? You see, do they still have fruits there and thing? He said yes. You see, when those things stop or decline, is a sign of my coming out. And they asked him about what about the unlettered prophet? What have the Arabs done with him? They said they fought him and they threw him out. And he said it's better that they support him. And so the sign of the Dajjal coming out is since the time of the Prophet Islam. Then the destruction of the people don't plant again in Basan, and also to the river. Now, yeah, I did also say when the second group come now of Gog and Magog, remember these are people, these are children of Adam too, what they are. They are people who want to dominate the world, basically. And he said when the second group come, they say, but there was water here in this lake, in the lake of Tiberias, where the water gone? And that is why Israel has always have a concern for controlling the rivers. In the southern Lebanon, where they're fighting right now, they always wanted that river. They captured a place called the Shaba Farms, the river, the water. Okay, so there will be water wars, just as today we have war for oil and gas. So Allah says that He make the earth lenient, pliable. It brings smile on people's faces. All of these words you can get from Basit, because in modern Arabic, when you ask somebody, are you okay? Are you Basit? And they say, yeah, I'm Mabsut. I'm Mabsut. Mabsut means I'm okay. I'm happy. Right? I'm okay. Then we go on now. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, on to ayah 21. Qala Nuhu Rabbi. So Nuh now, which the name of this surah takes its name from this chapter, this verse, about Noah. Okay, the person who we call Noah. And from our Sunday school time and our Christian times, we know that Noah was somebody who preached to his people for many years. Assalamu alaikum, are you hearing me?
Alaikum salam. Yes.
Yeah, I was trying to keep the iPad cut off. I didn't charge it properly, so next time, sorry about that. Yeah, so I'm just coming from the phone now. So, yes, we were talking about Noah, and we said that Noah is the person who we know very well, and then he took animals into the ark and 40 days, and then the earth started over, repopulating. Okay, repopulation, and we have this talk about Adam, Noah, and people say, how this man get all these different animals on an ark? How can he put a lion with sheep and goat? Will a lion eat the sheep and goat? So, I was watching a talk, and somebody was asking one of these black Israelites who said that they are from Israel, and he said, well, how come Allah put, God put a lion, wolf, things that does eat like goats and sheep on the same ark? The man said, well, God put a spirit on the lion and the tiger, so it wouldn't eat the the other animals like deer and antelope and stuff. But from my understanding, Allah never said that it was full-grown animals that He put on the ark. If you put some tiger cubs and wolf cubs, you wouldn't have a problem. It doesn't say that that all the animals that came on the ark were fully grown. So this is my response to these people to say when they ask me about that. Could Islam have this similar narration story? So it don't mean that they were full-grown animals. It could be young animals. Okay? And it makes sense if it's young animals because you can fit a lot of more animals in a space as the ark if they're young, okay, than full-grown. Now, and Noah said, my Lord, innahum, okay, innahum asawni, okay, that the people, okay, they are disobedient to me. Asawni, they were disobedient to me. Okay, they were very disobedient, and this disobedience is very intense. It's like it comes as they were insolent, not only just disobedient, but they were insolent, which means that they mocked him. They make a fool out of him. Okay, what taba'u malam, okay, and they followed, okay, those who rejected him. Okay, and on top of that too, they followed those whose wealth, Allah says, lam yazidhu maluhu wa waladuhu. And Allah says that they follow people who, although they were wealthy and they had a lot of children, that did not help them achieve guidance. Okay? So Allah is saying that they only follow people who were wealthy in society, the big boys. But Allah puts it in a roundabout way. He say they follow those whose wealth and children did not increase them in guidance. Okay? And the wealth and children only caused them to what? Ila khasara. They fell into destruction. Okay? They fell into destruction. So despite all their wealth, and who is talking about the normal people? Okay, we have most times the normal people, the normal Joe and Jane, they like to emulate what we call celebrities and rich people. So they ignored Noah and they used to follow these people because these people had means and they had property and they had wealth and they had children, healthy children. Most of the other people's children died in childhood. They were not properly fed. Okay, they suffered. They were poor. Okay, so these were the poor people and the sufla, like people who really down and out. Okay, and those people who they follow, their wealth and their position and their property and their children did not prevent them, did not benefit them in following the guidance. And Jalalain said, Allah is talking about the Ra'usa, that those people who are the Rais, the prime ministers, the presidents, the leaders, okay, those who had ni'mah of the world, they had the best things of the world. All right, they had the best things of the world in terms of wealth and property, and this is what the people follow. And they had sons, okay, which means that they were able to, the more children they had, they were able to occupy certain privileged positions, just as every society. Every society we have these children of the rich, and you don't know how come they always have money, because they have children, and they put the children to, just as you work, you work for the father, you're not working for the child and the grandchild, and that's how we go. So forever you have been a servant to this family, okay, because they are rich and they are providing employment. And it doesn't matter, you might go to the same school as these people, you pass with higher passes, but then he will be your boss, okay, because he's occupying that position have nothing to do with intelligence. Okay, it has to do with opportunity and where he came from. So they will teach him the business, and then the intelligence that he need to run the business, he will hire it from the poor class. Okay, so this is what was going on with Noah. He had a great opposition from the rich people, and the poor people were mesmerized, but it only resulted in their destruction. Wa makaru makran kubaran. And Allah says, they plot a plot. They plotted against Noah. They plotted to keep people away from Noah. Okay, they plotted to stop the message of Noah. Okay, and so just like today, people plot to keep Islam away from people. We don't realize, we just go along happy go lucky. I'm a Muslim, gigi. I'm a Muslim, and yeah. But they don't realize what they're up against. They're up against a society that intends not to have Islam center stage. And then we have even Muslims working with that society, and those people, we call them munafiq, right? Hypocrites, because they are working against the message, right? Now, there are some people for many different reasons. For example, in the banking sector, they don't want Islam to become the force that it is, because they will not be able to charge interest. They will not be able to oppress the people with different loans and things like that. Okay, some people don't want Islam to rise because Islam called for social justice among people. Some people, they just feel that if Islam comes, Christianity will die. So there are people who have plots for simple reasons, and people who have plot for political reasons, and people who plot for sophisticated reasons. And since the day of they brought slaves into this part of the world, in the Caribbean and the Americas, Islam was always suppressed. Okay? And the majority of the slave rebellions had Muslims' involvement. And there was even a Muslim, quote-unquote, state was established in Brazil in our own time. During slave time. And so it means Islam was always there. And in Brazil, the Muslims were the leaders, and even when it had the uprising, even the non-Muslims ride with the Muslims. Okay? Similar to Bookman in Jamaica. Okay, he was a Muslim, and there were non-Muslims with him. and there was Uthman in America. There were many others, who Muslims who, although they were enslaved, they tried to rid themselves of slavery. And Allah says, and they have devised a great plot. Okay? They devised a great plot. So what did they do? What did they do now? With all this big, kubar, that big plot that they devised. Waqalu. And they said, La tadharunna ilahatakum. Okay? La tadharunna ilahatakum. Do not abandon your gods. So the society came together and told them, do not abandon your gods. Forget Noah. Wala tadharunna wadda, and do not abandon Wad. Was a god of love. Okay? Wad. So don't abandon your gods. Don't abandon Wad. Wala suwa'an, and do not abandon Sawa or Suwa. There's another god. Okay, so do not abandon Wad, do not abandon Suwa. Okay, Wala Yaghutha, and do not abandon Yaghuth. There's another god. Okay, and do not abandon Ya'uqa, and do not abandon Ya'uqa. One Nasran. Nasran was I think was an eagle. But these were gods that represented they were animal forms or human forms. So they call the people, not to abandon their gods, and Allah mentioned those gods. Now, for those of us who into comparative religion, right? These gods appeared over and over in the history of mankind. Whether it's in Africa, whether it's in China, whether it's in Asia, wherever we are, these are the gods that people worship, but under different names. Okay? Because if you look at in Africa, they used to worship a god of the river and the sea. And this god, the color is blue, and she had a light skin because she lived in water. If you live in water as a human being, your skin get light, right? And it's the same god we found in Babylon, the same god we find other places. The mermaid god, right? She looks like a mermaid, what we call a mermaid, all over the world. So African religion is not something unique, and our people who oppose Islam and say, do not abandon our gods. Why are we becoming Muslims? Why are you abandoning Shango? Okay, why are you abandoning what is it called? Iron? Why are you abandoning all these gods that we have in the Orisha or we have in African religion? And they talk to us like this, just as the people of Noah. Okay, and they said that Islam is taking us away from these gods, and that Islam is foreign to us, and that Islam is not the religion of our forefathers. So whether our forefathers were on the right path or our forefathers were on the wrong path, it doesn't matter to them. That we should just follow our forefathers, and that we are in error for leaving the religion of our forefathers. This is their dawah. And it's the same thing they told Noah. Now, if you look at Islam, when the Prophet Muhammad came with his dawah, what did the people told him, the Arabs? They told him the same thing. Why should what you calling us to? Our forefathers never used to do this. This is not the religion of our forefathers. So that's why I tell people Islam is not an Arab religion. Islam is a religion that the Arab people embraced. Because what the Arab told the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu is the same thing they told Noah, the same thing that they told all the prophets. I'm Shahid. How much time I have? Shahid, how much time I have?
About 20 minutes. About
Okay.
20 minutes ahead, inshallah.
All right. So what I'm trying to say is that they tell us that these are the gods of our father, but these are the gods of our father when our fathers went astray. Okay, and when we look at it, those gods are not unique to Africa. It's the same gods that Noah met with his people, and the same God that Ibrahim met, alayhi salam, our father Abraham met. So this is our dawah to these people. So, I have known brothers, I know not brothers, a particular brother I know, he left Islam because he met some woman. I think it's more the woman than the ideology. Anyway, he said that, she told him, Islam is against the culture and against African tradition and African worship and blah, 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 blah. And he leave Islam and telling people that, challenging people, come and challenge him. I challenge him and he never respond. Okay? So this is the dawah they come to you with. Do not abandon your gods. Okay? Do not abandon your gods. Do not abandon Wad. Okay? Do not abandon Suwa. Do not abandon Yakuth and Ya'uq and Nasr. Okay? And if you look into all these gods, you can see similarities today in the gods that people worship, still worship. Okay, and Allah continues. So the Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, وَقَدْ أَضُلُّ كَثِيرًا, and they cause many people to go astray. Okay, they cause many people to go astray, and they're still causing people to go astray, unfortunately. Okay, so they cause many people to go astray. Wala what is this? Wala tazid, right? And they did not, how to put it? They cause a lot of people, they have misled many, and it only caused the Zolimin, those who are doing wrong, to increase in error. It did not cause them to increase in guidance. So there was no increase for them except in error. That is all they mean. Okay, so we stop there. So this worship, it did not increase them. It did not increase the Dhalimin. Those who create sins, Dhalim. Dhalim means to darken your soul. Dhalim means to oppress. So when we sin, we oppress ourselves. Sinning is self-oppression. We have self-harm, people self-harm. Well, when we sin, we self-harm our spiritual self and our physical self. So sin is a type of self-harming. You're not doing Allah anything. Some people, feel they're spiting Allah or something. You're not spiting Allah. You sin, you're only harming your own self. You're darkening your soul, and you're calling negative energies towards yourself, punishment, darkness, and all these different things. So Allah said that la tazid, it did not increase them. It did not increase. La tazid did dhalimin, that the dhalim did not increase, except, well, Allah is saying that the only increase they get is in error. They went further down into error. Okay? So, next class, inshallah, we'll go on. I will try and find more information for you on what these gods look like. You just look at them in next class, and then we'll complete this surah, inshallah. But we just have about four short verses. And then we go on to the next surah, inshallah. So we're now kicking off. Any questions? Any questions? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay. We have some very bright students. All right. So inshallah, we will continue tomorrow.
I think Sister Anissa wanted to say something more. Sister Anissa wanted to say something.
No.
And then we have
Go
Brother
ahead.
Abu Bakr.
No, come on, say, because we're nearing the time. Come on, I'm listening.
No. Assalamu alaikum. I wasn't going to say anything, I was just saying that we're not bright, but we're just soaking it in for now.
So, it's good to have questions because it helps the teacher increase his knowledge too, So, anyhow, so just basically straightforward, and so I'll try and get some more information on the. I know the image of some of them. I think Wad was a woman.
But Assalamu alaikum. But these images are like, you could say, similar to what like the Hindus have a lot of them.
Yes.
Because they said they were animal forms and all that sort of thing.
Yeah. And some of them choose what they call anthropomorphism. They like when in front of the court you see a woman holding a scale, they say she is justice, which means they give justice a human form. Okay? They give justice a human form.
And what about the lions that they put like the Chinese and all of these?
Yeah,
people?
the Chinese, we have the Chinese, and even some people worship the lion too, the strength of the lion. So we just touch it on we just touch on it, and next class and go forward and finish up this chapter. Okay. Anything else?
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Yeah, welcome, sir.
La tazid is that's the negative form of the present tense, right?
Yeah. And so Allah use it?
Yeah.
Allah use increase in a negative way. Only Allah could do that. You say la tazid. They do the la tazilu zalimin, right? That the zalim did not increase. What that mean? If it do increase, what happens to you?
Increase.
You decrease, right? So what Allah meant there is that these gods that they hold on to did not increase them in anything except more sin, going backwards now. But it is implied in the verse. You understand? You understand?
Yeah, just
so Allah could have said, La tazid the zalimin illa dalala. He could have said, and they did not increase them, the zalimin, except illa in dalala, in going astray. But Allah didn't go through that. You take a roundabout when you say it did not increase the zalimin. So that had no increase, which means that they went backwards. And these are the beauty of the Quran, how Allah use things, and how we use it. Right? We might say we might use illa. They did not increase except in going astray, or except in more sins, right? But Allah said about all of that. Say that they didn't increase in nothing. right? And he called them Zolim. Right? So there was no increase for the Zolim. Right? So how we interpret that? It means that they went into more sin. They were not taken out of it. Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else? Anybody else? They say what was worshipped in the form of a man, Sua in the form of a woman, Yaguth in the form of a lion, Yauk in the form of a horse, and Nasser in the form of an eagle. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And through the time of the prophet, they were still worshipped by certain tribes in Arabia. And some people say, who are against Islam, they say, Rasulullah just used these idols that these people worship and apply it to Noah. I'm not thinking that these are the same gods that Noah people worship and these people worshiping. Because all of us, descend from the children of Noah. Yeah.
So why they have like Muslims using like the eagle as their symbol or whatever like that?
Oh, I know that's a different thing. People can use what they call totems, right? It means like there are certain tribes who admire certain qualities of animals, okay? And they use those things as a totem. That's not a worship, not a worship. It represents the valor or the bravery of a people. Okay, like the Romans. The Romans use the eagle. And because America and England and the Europeans were conquered by the Romans, they also use that same symbol. Right? Okay. But in no part of the world, or no part of history, the Romans ever worshipped the eagle. Right? Just as most part of the Muslim world used to the moon and star. But the moon and star really had nothing to do with Islam, you know. The moon and star came from the Turkish Caliphate. That was their symbol. Right? And they use that symbol now on their flag. So they were in the Middle East, every country they were in, they had the crescent and the star. Okay? And that was the last caliphate. So when that caliphate was destroyed by the European powers, the Muslims still use this crescent and the star because that was the last insignia of the former caliphate that fell. Okay? And they put it on the masjid, but it's not really something that come out of Islam in the sense that what the Prophet ﷺ used. The Prophet ﷺ used a black banner, okay, or a white banner, and sometimes he used a black banner with a white spot in the middle, from his own culture. So these are just cultural things that people use, so don't think, some people come and tell you, oh, that's evil, the moon and star, No, it's just something that people use. It represents the crescent moon, like that heralds the beginning of a new era, of a new month. Remember, every new month we have to look for the crescent, right? So it means the beginning of a new era, and a lot of times you can see a star not far away from it. I don't know if you ever saw that, some people, so they use that symbol from creation as a insignia. Okay? And it doesn't mean that to be Muslim you have to have moon and star all over the place. But in our time it has become a symbol of Islam. Sometimes when they want to indicate Islam, they just put a moon and star. Yeah. But that was the last caliphate. Anybody else? Anybody else? So we can close, right? So maybe Hamdik. Is somebody else going to say something?
No, I was saying it seems like everybody already asked all the questions.
Okay, good.
So you can
So
do the closing
those are the things, right? So inshallah, we continue on the last 4 verses, and we clear up that and go on to our new surah.
Maulana, Ramadan Kareem. Next class, he will just give us a brief intro on the Orisha worship. We're gonna end now, so I wouldn't put you through that.
Yeah, because
all right.
we have to know these things, because a lot of our people are into these things. Even Muslims, when they get in trouble, they run to the Obiya man. Even Muslims do that. I know of Muslims
Yeah,
personally.
exactly.
I know of Muslims personally who do that. Big Muslims. And it's the same thing in Africa too. They when they have problems, they run to the Orisha, because these jinns just promise you an immediate solution. So you might run there, get back your husband or get back your wife, and then you also get back sins. You also get back. You're not being subservient to the jinn, and the jinn only taking whatever from you to continue have that wife or that man or that woman. And you have to be doing it constantly. So he enslave you for a temporary solution. By the time you stop that, you lose the man and woman. By the time the bandit, time the criminal stop that, the police come in fame. As I told you, if Allah put a government in power, even the jinns can work against the government. The jinns just work for the government. So because the jinns recognize Allah's power and authority, Okay, so that's why the biggest will be a market local. Yeah. Anything else? So fear police. I just make it joke. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah.